dragons, sing of the first world, forged out of chaos and painted with beauty. Sing of Bahamut, the platinum, molding the shape of the mountains and rivers. Sing too of Tiamat, painting all over the infinite canvas. Partnered, they woke in the darkness. Partnered, they labored in acts of creation. Breathe, dragons, sing then of Sardior, ruby-red jewel they made in their likeness. Sardior, firstborn of dragonkind, labored alongside Bahamut and Tiamat, shaping the dragons they crafted. Dragons metallic and dragons chromatic. Breathe, dragons. Draw in the life gift breathed into you at the dawn of creation. Breathe, dragons. Sing of the outsiders, warbringer gods with their mortal adherents. Teeming, they came to the first world, seeking a home for their legions of followers. Mighty in magic and numbers, conquering deities seized their victory. Fallen was noble Bahamut, Sardior hid in the heart of creation. Breathe, dragons, sing of the conquest, seeding the world with their legions of followers, each to their own habitation, elves in their forests and dwarves in their mountains, orcs in their caverns and canyons, goblins in badlands, and halflings in green fields, lizard folk lurking in marshes, humans throughout every part of creation. Breathe, dragons, sing of the first world, scattered in infinite seedling realities. Sing of metallic and chromatic, watching its sundering, mourning their labor. Sing too of Sardior, sundered, consciousness scattered in minuscule fragments. Breathe, dragons, you are the inheritors, ruling the wreck of the first world's destruction. Fizban the Fabulous, taken from the city of Sigil during Faerun's Year of the Sun, 1362 DR, from the Treasury of Dragons. Today, we fly towards the origins of dragons and their cousins known as the gem dragons, to uncover the secrets of these magnificent cousins to the well-known metallic and chromatic dragons. The elegy of the First World is an ancient draconic power of unknown origin, found with minor variations in the collections and traditions of dragons across the many worlds of the material plane, stretching from Faerun to Krynn. Various creation myths told on different worlds echo some of the themes and notions of this poem, particularly when they describe dragons or draconic gods being involved in creating the world. But the heart of the poem is a profound assertion not found in any of those individual myths. The elegy suggests that before the myriad worlds of the material plane came into being, before Earth, Toril, Eberron, and Krynn existed, the primordial dragons worked together to create the material plane in the form of a single first world. All the worlds that now constitute the plane are, in the words of the poem, seeding realities, formed when the first world was sundered in some unexplained catastrophe. The story told in the elegy for the first world suggests a number of truths regarding the nature of dragons. First, it portrays the 10 varieties of metallic and chromatic dragons as the first inhabitants of the material plane. Dragons were made to populate the first world before any other worlds came into being, but they were supplanted by the teeming peoples that the gods of the outer planes brought to inhabit that world. The elegy likewise suggests that dragons are living embodiments of the primordial energy of the first world, which now flows throughout the material plane, and that they are inextricably linked to the magic of that plane. The religions of numerous worlds teach that humanoids are creatures of a dual nature, part material and part spiritual, made of the essence of both the material plane and the otherworldly outer planes. But dragons, at least in the view of the elegy for the first world, are wholly material, dwelling in the material plane and embodying its essential nature. Many worlds have myths and legends about the Queen of Dragons and the Platinum Dragon, though these primordial dragons are sometimes known by other names. But the elegy for the first world differs from nearly all those legends in its mention of Sardior, firstborn of dragonkind. The poem suggests that they created Sardior together, and that ruby-red Sardior then joined with both of them to craft the metallic and chromatic dragons. Some dragons who have studied the poem believe that this first dragon was destroyed and shattered along with the first world, and that the ruby dragon's splintered consciousness became the gem dragons on the new worlds of the material plane. Scribes suggest that the most comprehensive histories indicate that Toril has not always known dragons, at least not in their current forms. This theory states that Toril's dragons evolved from some reptilian ancestor, and though it's possible to read these theories as contradicting the story of the elegy for the First World, it's also possible to imagine that the newly formed Toril, fragmented from the First World, retaining a hazy memory of the full ideal of dragonkind, which then took thousands of years to manifest. The origin of gem dragons is a tale wrapped in psionic mysteries and cosmic forces. Unlike their chromatic and metallic counterparts, gem dragons were not born of primal chaos or divine order. Instead, their creation is often attributed to Sardior, the ruby dragon, a being of unparalleled intellect and psionic might. Sardior is said to have emerged from the first shard of psionic energy, a cosmic gem that resonated with the fabric of the multiverse itself. From this shard or essence, Sardior shaped the gem dragons, each aligned with the unique properties of a precious gemstone: amethyst, sapphire, emerald, topaz, and crystal. There are also accounts of obsidian dragons, although they are rare, and tales of their magnificence are limited. Amethyst dragons, the mightiest of the gem dragons, study and psionically manipulate the fundamental principles of the multiverse. From the force of gravity to the emanations of the outer planes, their innate psionics give them a measure of control over how physical laws affect them. They defy gravity with flight that doesn't rely solely upon their great wings, and gravitational force empowers both their devastating breath weapon and the exploding amethyst crystals they spit at their foes. Many of these dragons are fascinated by the existence of other worlds in the material plane, and especially the way individual dragons manifest unique echoes across those worlds. They also prize understanding of the cosmic forces that emanate from the outer planes, studying the opposing tides of good and evil, chaos and order, so they can offer counsel to those with the wisdom to accept it. Amethyst dragons pay particular attention to intrusions of the far realm into the material plane. They loathe the corruption that accompanies such intrusions into the world, making them fierce opponents of the far realm and any creatures warped by its touch. Strangely though, they are intrigued by and fond of flumphs. These aberrations, which oppose the depredations of mind flayers and other wicked aberrations, remind amethyst dragons that allies can be found in the strangest places. In addition to material wealth, they delight in collecting knowledge and magic dealing with the nature of the planes of existence, cosmic forces, and distant worlds. They prize treasures drawn from different worlds of the material plane, especially magic items and artworks that highlight the unique nature of different worlds. Magic items that allow teleportation or travel between planes, spellbooks filled with similar magic, and treatises examining the nature of the multiverse form the centerpiece of an amethyst dragon's hoard. Amethyst dragons make their lairs in caves next to or under secluded pools and lakes, preferring caverns with at least one entrance submerged underwater. These lairs radiate with the dragon's magic, with amethyst crystals and geodes forming along the muddy shores and lake beds that situate nearby its hoard. Fish and other aquatic beasts thrive in bodies of water in huge numbers, as if reproducing at a rapid rate. With its connection to the multiverse, the dragon is able to move between differing planes of existence, almost reappearing then exploding in crystals within the vicinity of its new location. Shimmering with radiant energy and brimming with life, crystal dragons enjoy an innate psionic connection to the upper and positive planes. They prefer to live in desolate, frigid regions. Many of them are among the friendliest of dragonkind, nurturing and optimistic. When they hatch, crystal dragons have dull grey scales with a few white or clear crystalline points, allowing the young to blend into rocky terrain in the face of danger. As they age, their scales turn snow white, then slowly fade to transparency. The oldest crystal dragons have scales of perfect clarity that bend and refract light, sometimes making them difficult to see clearly. The radiant energy of the positive plane shimmers in crystal dragon scales. It glows like starlight between their bodies and the spines and horns that hover close to their heads and backs. These horns shift with the dragon's mood, bristling with anger, lying back with fear or suspicion, and rippling in side-to-side waves with amusement or joy. Many crystal dragons study the stars, recording their observations of the night sky and tracking the signs written in starlight. They read these signs as omens, giving them glimpses of what is to come, and they eagerly examine the potential futures of any creatures who come to them in peace. Crystal dragons' connection to the radiant forces of the positive plane fosters a nurturing, optimistic attitude in most of these dragons. They sometimes adopt the abandoned eggs or hatchling of other dragons. Because of their favoured environments, they occasionally encounter frost giants and white dragons and ruthlessly hunt them. For their treasure hoards, crystal dragons prize diamonds and baubles that refract light, collections of prophecy, works on astronomy, and star charts. When it comes to magical treasure, they seek items and spells that predict the future, create or manipulate light, or channel positive energy for healing and nurturing. These cold areas in which the crystal dragon's lairs reside are reminiscent of castles, but remain open to the sky. Glittering crystals scattered about their lairs glow with gathered starlight, and caves or tunnels beneath the ice and snow provide protected areas for their hoards. They burrow to dig blinds and secret passages throughout, allowing them to move easily and potentially unnoticed. Within their lairs, these dragons have full control over the various starlight strands that radiate throughout the lair. These strands of light burn trespassers with radiant energy and surrounds them with an all-encompassing glow that makes it difficult or near impossible to escape the wrath of the dragon. Emerald dragons are the most curious, cunning, and manipulative of the gem dragons, wielding psionic power to weave illusions to deceive and disorient. They cloak their own presence so they can observe other creatures without being discovered, as they collect information on everything from local cultural practices to supernatural occurrences. As a young dragon, their scales are a dull, pale green, but they develop into richer and more varied shades of green as the dragon ages. Eventually, the scales become translucent and shimmer in the light, rippling as the dragon moves. The dragon's horns and spines hover above the body, moving and shifting along the back and tail to mirror the dragon's mood. The shyest of the gem dragons, emerald dragons, are also the most curious. They love to observe local settlements and peoples, using their psionic abilities to cloak themselves and watch from afar. When an emerald dragon is old enough, the dragon might take on the guise of a creature that can blend in with the local population, or at least get close without arousing suspicion. Once in a position to observe, the dragon studies the day-to-day life of local folk with a keen interest in any magical phenomena. Emerald dragons' attentiveness to unusual events makes them particularly useful to their sapphire dragon cousins, who hunt down aberrations and seek evidence of far realm incursions into the material plane. These gem dragons often work together, with emerald dragons tracking the source of an incursion, while sapphire dragons plan and execute a decisive purge, or recruit agents to do it for them. They generally have a preference for volcanic lairs, often putting them in conflict with fire giants. Despite their reluctance to reveal themselves to strangers, emerald dragons might approach experienced adventurers in the hopes of pitting them against fire giant rivals. Knowledge is prized above all else to these dragons, particularly local histories that focus on magical events and individuals. They usually know of places of power near their lairs and keep detailed records of how phenomena connected to those sites react to outside influences. They also avidly collect magic items and spells that create illusions, allowing them to better conceal their treasures from prying eyes and divinations. Emerald dragons dwell in enormous caverns, lava tubes, and tunnel networks deep within the earth. They favor warm spaces, particularly in volcanic regions. Over time, their psychic presence seeps into the land surrounding their lairs, expanding their awareness and subconsciously luring their favorite food, giant lizards, to settle and thrive in the region. They take great pains to hide the chambers that house their hoards and collected lore, often using illusion magic and subtle construction around the natural features of their lairs to conceal their central hoard chambers from mundane and magical sight. With their deep connection to illusion magic and psionics, the region around an emerald dragon's hoard is filled with rocks moving of their own accord, vanishing structural elements, and constant whispers radiating throughout humanoids' brains that enter. The thunderous clash of conflict is part of the very nature of sapphire dragons. Militant and territorial, they defend their lairs fiercely, ambushing intruders and plotting assaults against their rivals. The sonic pulse of their breath weapon sows weakness, leaving the victims unable to fight back. Sapphire dragon's scales and wing membranes show varied shades of blue, ranging from the light tones of a spring sky to the rich, crystalline azure of sapphire gems and compressed glacial ice. In the light, the scales glitter and shine like luminous starbursts. The dragon's psionic nature is evident in the horn and bone structures of their bodies. Their tail barbs and horn tips are all separate pieces, but they float in place, held aloft by psychic energy while the dragons live. These levitating horns and spines shift slightly with the dragon's moods, bobbing in amusement or flaring with anger. These dragons are warlike. They devise strategies and ambushes based upon their ability to maneuver underground. A sapphire dragon often refrains from striking immediately, preferring to assess intruders first in order to devise the most advantageous approach to dealing with them. They watch for signs of aberrations and other creatures corrupted by the far realm, whereby frequently allying with emerald dragons, drawing on their kin's knowledge, as they focus on stamping out the corruption before it spreads to other worlds or sites in order to maintain balance. People who dwell or delve deep beneath the earth easily find themselves at odds with a sapphire dragon if they cross into the dragon's territory. But these dragons are in some instances able to forge peaceful relationships with rock gnomes or deep gnomes, relying on these folk to help protect the territory surrounding their lairs. Their lairs are filled with their favorite prizes, such as weapons, armor, records of military history, tactics, and magic items that protect against psychic attacks. This protection often comes into practice when dealing with mind flayers, aboleths, and beholders. These lairs are located more often than not in increasingly complex cave systems, using their inherent magic and natural tunneling abilities to carve out complex systems of protection. Just like several of the other gem dragons, constant whispers from intruders can make them go mad, rendering these intruders paralyzed or charmed before they have had a chance to act. Decay and despair are bound up in the nature of topaz dragons, thanks to the necrotic energy of the negative plane that suffuses them. Their psionic power manifests the fundamental entropic principle that mortal beings and their creations are ultimately doomed to death and decomposition, and the dragon's demeanor is typically morbid and curmudgeonly as a result. Upon hatching, these dragon scales are a dull yellow, and have a cloudy or filmy look. As they age, their scales harden and clarify, becoming translucent and faceted, and ranging from bright yellow to rich amber in colour. Their bodies are wider at the haunches, tapering in a wedge shape toward the head, and their wings are shaped to propel them through both air and water. A topaz dragon's psionic power manifests visibly in the gem like spines that run in a ridge from the brown of the head to the tip of the tail. While generally not malicious, the embodiment of decay, as well as the view of destruction as a natural process, means that they view the cycle of this destruction as a way for new creation and growth to prosper. To this end, they use their power to reduce crumbling structures and diseased plants to dust, clearing the way for new growth and construction. Despite being competent swimmers and making their lairs on seacoasts and in brackish marshes, topaz dragons hate the water. Unfortunately, their favourite food is giant squid, so these dragons have ample opportunity to complain bitterly about being wet after diving deep into the ocean in search of prey. Within their hordes, they prize information on destruction and creation, whether abstract or dedicated to practical applications. They're fascinated by magic that creates objects from nothing, animates undead, destroys matter, or manipulates negative energy. Due to their fascination of undead, they occasionally keep them as curious within their hordes. Gem dragons wield psionic power, and when a powerful gem dragon perishes, the force of the dragon's will and mind sometimes refuses to pass on. This essence lingers in the form of a psychic remnant called a draconic shard. A draconic shard in its true form resembles a shimmering, spectral image of the dragon. More often though, a shard inhabits an object the gem dragon poured psionic power into, typically a weapon or other item from the dragon's hoard. In this vessel, a draconic shard continues to pursue the interests and struggles that drove the dragon, perhaps even accompanying adventurers in the guise of an intelligent magic item and steering them to fulfill the dragon's designs. Destroying the shard's spectral form, or an object the shard inhabits, forces the spirit into the form of a cracked gemstone, while the spirit regains strength. Some scribes are led to believe that Sardior cast themselves into the form of a draconic shard eons ago to preserve the power they once had, then erupted, giving life to the gem dragons which now inhabit the multiverse. A little-known phenomenon supporting the central ideas expressed in the Elegy for the First World. Occasionally, dragons develop a sense known as dragon sight, an awareness of multiple incarnations of themselves across different worlds of the material plane. Dragon sight is most common in ancient dragons, especially when their enormous hordes include items from other worlds, or powerful artifacts whose histories span multiple worlds. Gem dragons, perhaps because of their connection to Sardior, are most likely to develop dragon sight. Dragons who develop dragon sight amass knowledge that spans the material plane, making them among the foremost experts on worlds beyond their own. In the brilliance of Sardior's vision, the gem dragons were born, a crystalline chorus of power, thought, and elegance. Each one, from the amethyst to the crystal, reflects a fragment of Sardior's psionic majesty, a living legacy of the ruby dragon's unmatched intellect and imagination. Yet Sardior remains an enigma. Some say he drifts across the plains, slumbering in a secret sanctuary, while others believe he was shattered alongside the First World, his essence scattered among the stars. Perhaps the fragments linger, hidden in the hearts of his creations, or etched into the very fabric of the multiverse. The gem dragons, with their crystalline elegance and psionic mastery, teach us that true power lies in balance between thought and action, strength and wisdom. Unlike their chromatic and metallic kin, they embody a harmony that transcends the physical, delving into the mysteries of the mind and the cosmos. Their existence reminds us that knowledge and introspection are as vital as raw might, and that the greatest truths often lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered by those with the clarity to see them. Thank you for watching the video. We have more videos planned, so like and subscribe to make sure you watch those when they release. Thanks to our members, DJ, Alberto and Zeno, who have signed up to our memberships. If you would like to support the channel further, take a look at the links for Patreon and our membership on YouTube. See you all on the next video.